Welcome to another edition of the KTTH Roundtable, where Bryan, Suits, and I speak of topics that we didn't really prepare for around a literal round table. Yesterday morning, we got to see the sweeps around the MLB All-Star game and the weekend that starts today.
They're just cleaning up, man.
It took an All-Star game for the city to finally tackle with urgency the homelessness crisis in SoDo in particular, but Pioneer Square downtown. Beggars can't be choosers. I will take anything at this point, but I hope that the mayor will use this as the impetus for a more urgent approach to the crisis, rather than what he's been doing, which is kind of DL, behind the scenes, slow walking his plan, which gives the homeless enough time to move back into the areas of which you already kicked them out of.
As you were pointing out, his attitude towards eco blocks, those rectangular concrete blocks with a little island on them, those have done a 180. This time last year, City Council President Pro Tem Sarah Nelson had them in front of her own business in Ballard because they work. They keep the RVs away. Now that's what he did yesterday to keep the RVs from coming back, and that story
it's worse than that, because last August, because I've got the story up right now at KTTH.com, he came out after all these businesses, and it wasn't just Sarah Nelson. She was doing that for a while. There were a lot of businesses all across the city that felt so desperate to stop the RVs and these tents from showing up. They put up these eco blocks. He said, this is not the right move. This is not how you address homelessness, and we're going to ticket these people once we find out who's responsible. But all of a sudden, you've got all these eco blocks, and I reached out to the mayor's office saying, hey, what changed? Of course, no response.
And you know what? Because they work. And there's that. I saw one guy in an RV who had been there for 6 years. He had a Corvette parked in front of the RV. He had a big shelter for the RV, but the Corvette was in it. No explanation there. And then it's ironic because on Wednesday, the governor cut the ribbon on a new homeless hotel. This one in Lacey. So here's a guy, if you haven't been down to Olympia or Lacey down I-5 for a while, he leaves his governor's mansion next to the Capitol and drives past several miles of dense tenting on I-5 to exit at Lacey to get to the Days Inn and cut a ribbon on a homeless hotel. He called it going big and going fast. And
it's neither.
But it's if you tell any of these RV people, look, here's $50 for diesel to get down there, it's another, no drug, no alcohol, which is the number one reason they don't go to those.
Well, so this is where we disagree. First of all, that hotel is not no drugs and no alcohol. They will tell you that, but it's actually a low barrier shelter because they don't, generally, they've not checked the premises to make sure that they don't have their party supplies. And low barrier shelters do not work. They do not work. There is no data that suggests anything other than it might bring them indoors into a tiny home village that's low barrier or a hotel.
To party.
They do not leave. And ultimately, they die of an overdose. So this whole idea that we're just going to give you housing, a housing first model has not worked anywhere unless it comes with actual rules that are enforced.
Which is why they don't go. And so I don't know. And then there's a movement. There's some underground movement on Tuesday morning at midnight for a RV swarm to ruin the All-Star game. And this is something that we've talked about. I don't know. The countermeasures obviously block off that whole area, which Seattle police have thought of. But there's a group that wants to have a public nationwide confrontation with Seattle police to highlight the homeless. And none of them are homeless. They're the homeless activists. So they have a vested interest in getting on TV, getting viral, and the whole thing. So we'll see how that plays out.
Although weirdly enough, they did not show up Thursday morning in any significant way to stop the sweeps from occurring. But we'll keep an eye on this all weekend long, and I'm going to pretend to be excited for the MLB All-Star Week. You actually want to watch it. I don't really care.
Julio.
Yeah, there you go. We'll see you next week.